story. And his story was my story. It was where I was. He had been where I was just a few years before. And the aspects of this story that he shared, the feelings that he had, the dreams that he had, the things that he had needed himself back at that time were exactly what I was experiencing then. So also I knew this guy, he understands what I need, what I'm looking for. He knows, and so when he came out and said, hey, I'm going to be having the seminar to teach you how to do, such and such in real estate investing, I think it was how to do short sales or something like that the seminar was for. I was like, yeah, I want to go learn from this guy. He totally gets me. Now, on the other side, I remember once we were at the Onyx Silver Underground live seminar that we were there helping out behind the scenes. And I don't know if you remember this guy, that one of his featured speakers was the kid that had like made a ton, like $1 million on eBay selling Beanie Babies when he was a teenager. And it was an interesting story at first, but I remember like leaning over to you going, this kid is so not impressing me, and here's why. Sure, he's done lots of things that I hadn't done, like sell Beanie Babies. Sure, part of me's going, wow, that would have been cool at 14 to have made all that money and stuff, but he spent most of his speech, basically, it felt like trying to fill his own need for recognition of how cool he was at what he had done as a kid. And by the end of that thing, I felt like, if he had said 10 things to boost up his own needs, he maybe said 1 or 2 to address my needs as a listener. And I don't know how other people felt in that audience. I imagine there's actually a lot of people who did. And by the end of that, I was like, I don't care if I ever listen to anything this kid has to say ever again. He just doesn't even seem to get me. Yeah, okay, great. You're a prodigy. You're not like any of the rest of us in this room. So I can't get any value from you now.
Yeah, it's an odd speech to go, when somebody says, oh yes, in 6, I have taken over the world. I'm not sure how that inspires the 38-year-old guy in the audience that's going, I'd like to start an internet business. Right. You know what I mean? You're just like going, oh, well, that's awesome that you had parents that completely helped you from the very, very beginning and were already that type, or whatever it was, you know what I mean? And just, listing all the great things you've done. It's much harder to identify with that when the kid doesn't, have any connection or empathy for who he's speaking to.
Right. Absolutely. Now here's an example of how we apply that, for instance, in our own content. There's something that we've taught for a long time now called the content triad. And the obvious thing when you're creating a blog post or you're creating a podcast episode is that you want to inform people. I mean, people do have a need for knowledge that's going to, then of course fulfill other needs that they have. But if you only go as far as the knowledge, you're really missing out on filling some other needs, and hence bonding that relationship with your listeners, with your readers, with your customers even more. So there's 2 other needs that we always try to do in all the content that we create. Not only do we try to inform, we also try to entertain, whether it's through us. Neither of us are comedians. At least I don't think of myself as a comedian. Sterling says he's always trying to make himself laugh, and I think that's a great way to go about life. But we just in the banter we have, we're poking fun at each other, the inside jokes we have on our show, the stories that we tell, the passion that we have. People they'll send in reviews or comments or emails going, wow, you just get me so excited because I can tell you are so excited about the topics you're talking about. So people have a need, again, for joy, for happiness, for entertainment, so we try to give them that in our content. Another need that we try to fill at the same time is to offer belonging. We know that a lot of people come to our show because maybe they've read something like Rich Dad Poor Dad or whatever the case may be, and they're going, wow, I want something other than my 9-to-5 job, but their spouse or their friends or their parents are telling them, no, that's just you're just dreaming. This is how life is. You just go through the grind until you're 60. So buck it up. And that's what people were telling me at first when I started talking about starting a business. Oh, that 9 out of 10 businesses fail, don't you? Just discouraging things. And so we want to provide a place where they come and they listen to us saying, it's okay to think like that. It's okay to be, that phrase that we use, chronically unemployable, to feel like I'm not made to work for somebody else. It's okay. And guess what? Not only do Sterling and I understand, there are tens of thousands of people reading our blog and listening to the show that also are thinking the same thing as you. So also it not only becomes a place to be informed and entertained, but a place to go and listen to also and feel a place of belonging. Again, another one of those fundamental needs that human beings have. So there's an example of applying that in how we apply that in our business and the content that we create put out there.
Yeah, certainly other than a comedian, I definitely more see myself as an inspirational herald. That's actually what I always considered, somebody that brings information to people, hopefully in a way that inspires them to want to actually take action. And if I happen to say something that's funny, it's, again, I always felt like I have several Hollywood comedian friends, and it's funny their take on it, as opposed, like, I could be with them and make them laugh as well, but mostly it was just I was amusing myself. And this is actually what I taught my daughter too, because she tries very hard to be funny a lot, and a lot of the times is, but when she was asking me about being funny, I just said, well, I amuse myself, and if other people laugh, it's like a bonus.
Yeah.
Because that's
all great
fun. Yeah, if it amuses me, now I might not laugh out loud or something, but I'll say something because it just seems amusing to me. But yeah, I definitely like to fall more on the side of inspiration or a herald that way. So
yeah, absolutely. So this is one of the reasons why we love